Television?
Oh, hey. Thanks for watching Call It in the Ring, your wrestling after show. We are going to be talking about the WWE. We're going to be talking about everything going on in the world of professional wrestling.
I'm trying to find a house show that I went to.
Why can we hear ourselves? You hear that?
In 1988.
I feel like we can hear ourselves through one of the monitors. Maybe not. But yeah, in 1998, you went to a house show. Was that your first ever wrestling show?
That was my first one, yeah.
Damn, I went to a wrestling show. I think my first show was like 1992.
Okay.
I think I was like 10 with me and my friends. Yeah, it was crazy. And my parents.
Yeah. I remember when I asked my dad, I was like, I saw the advertisement during Wrestling Challenge or Superstars, whatever it was, and we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, and I knew this was it was a feeble ask, but I was like, can we go see Brutus the Barber Beefcake fight the Outlaw Ron Bass? And they figured it out, and they were like, yeah, let's do it.
The Outlaw Ron Bass?
Well, it was shortly after the Outlaw had horribly taken his spurs.
This is the 98?
88.
Oh, 88 was your first show. I think it's 98.
Oh, no, heavens no. He had just raked his spurs across.
Oh, so you went to your show before me.
Yeah,
for sure. That's a long time. I don't even remember. I remember Ron Bass, but I don't really remember much. I don't remember much of him. I just remember him being in like the Royal Rumble in 1988.
Do you remember him raking his spurs across Brutus's face?
No, not
They censored it. Big X's over, and there was blood, and it was terrible.
You're a Brutus Beefcake guy. You're the only person I know that was a Brutus Beefcake guy.
Listen, on our first episode, I was like, this is embarrassing. But here we go, Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Real quick, I think it's Jalen Glover's birthday. It's somebody's birthday in here. Happy 20th birthday to whoever's birthday it is in here. We do have to talk about a few things before we get into calling it in the ring, officially calling it in the ring. Number one, we have the Super Chat feature. Hit that S button to help support the show. It helps keep the lights on right here so we could call it in the ring. It helps pay for a referee, like that's back there. We also have a TeePublic store, so go check that out. We can put the link in the chat in a little bit, but that also helps out the show. We have a few geek designs. Wrestling shirts are in there. Not pro wrestling tees, but our wrestling shirts, geek wrestling shirts. Those are also in there. And last but not least, THS Hashtaggers. Now what that is a Facebook group that helps continue the conversation of your favorite geekdoms worldwide, whether it be Disney, Doctor Who, and also we share each other's stuff from our friends over at Pop Culture Renegades and Kelly and her team at Achievement Unlocked. But now,
listen, Van Jarman and Primetime, they know it. They know Brutus. They know their history. You're down. Little cut and little off the top, little off the sides. You never know. It could happen to you.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake was. I mean, think about this for a second. He was an interesting character because, like, his gimmick would not be over in this day and age, which I think is great.
It was the whole, these are the professions in your neighborhood grand strand.
Was there ever a mailman wrestler?
I don't think there was.
Or was Special Delivery Jones like
Oh, very good.
Was there ever a mailman wrestler, though? Jog your memory. Trivia for anybody out there.
Yeah,
was there ever a mailman wrestler? Because we had a tax
collector.
Oh,
well, there was, no. Jake Milligan was the milkman. Jake the Milkman Milligan.
We had a tax collector, which was IRS.
Yeah. We had a garbage man.
We had a garbage Drosy.
We had the son of a plumber who was a plumber himself in the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever had a mailman wrestler. I feel like there has to have been, right?
We had the American Males.
We did have the American Males, which are strippers.
That's a homonym. That's not. There's a different male.
Yeah, we're gonna think about that one. But okay, let's talk about some. You wanted to ask. We were talking about our first house shows. How was your experience, and what was the most memorable thing about your first house show? Do you remember the main event also?
Oh, man. I think it was Hogan against Bad News Brown. And it was, okay, so we're in Minneapolis, and, man, there were some racist bastards in there.
Minneapolis?
Yeah. I mean, Minneapolis is a pretty progressive area, but, I mean, this is, 88, and they were wrestling fans. So, yeah, they were pretty racist sometimes, yelling terrible things at Bad News Brown. And as much as I wanted Bad News to win, or to lose, I kind of wanted him to win a little bit because of the jerks behind me.
Really? That's interesting. I remember, so my first ever wrestling show, the on-paper main event was Hulk Hogan against, I want to say it was Hulk Hogan and...
this is 92.
So. No, it was like 93. Okay. I want to say it was like Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter.
Okay.
I could be completely wrong, but I think it was. But they weren't the ones that went on last. Actually, the ones that went on last were, I think it was the Hart Foundation and Demolition. Hogan was like, he was the intermission show. Like right after that, it was.
And I wonder what that was about? Was it just so Hogan could leave? Because
It might have been. I remember that one coming on first, and then there was intermission, and then they had the rest of the card.
they did that a lot. I remember going to see another one in St. Cloud, and the main event. It was like was it Andre? Was it Andre and the Ultimate Warrior? I think it was at halftime, and then the main event was the Rockers against the Rougeau brothers. I thought it was interesting, but it was considerably more entertaining than the previous match.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Funny enough, growing up when I was a kid, believe it or not, I actually had more fun because at the Great Western Forum here in Inglewood, they used to run WCW back in the day, and this was Sting and the Dangerous Alliance era.
Yeah.
So I remember like being in the second row for Rick Rude and Sting, and it was a great match. And I remember just at that time too, I was obsessed with like. You know who my favorite wrestler in WCW was? My first ever favorite wrestler was Z-Man Tom Zank.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You know, I'll get back. We got to get back to this, but I need to point out that my buddy Alex in Minnesota, who I met because of wrestling, he started watching wrestling because one of his mom's friends was dating Tom Zank.
No way.
And then he got hugely into it.
That's hilarious.
Tom Zank was your first favorite WCW wrestler.
First ever. And I remember, I don't know what it was. He had the Z and the like,
he did have the Z.
He had the fluorescent tights. It might have been the look. But then soon after that, it was Lex Luger. I was a Lex Luger fan. But I was a Lex Luger fan right before he turned on Sting and joined Harley Race. And then I just stuck with Lex Luger.
Oh, that's right, because we're talking 93.
Yeah.
Did he still have that awesome music?
Yeah.
That was one of the best wrestling themes of all time.
That's so funny.
Badass.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, man, I really was a big fan of both growing up, of WCW and WWE. But they were very different brands of sports entertainment.
Yes.
All right, now we want to get into some big news. First, do we want to start off with headline news, or do we want? You want to talk about Raw?
We can talk about Raw.
Okay,
I mean, that kind of coincides with. I mean, I think our biggest news of the week is Matt Hardy.
I agree, and that's what our thumbnail is. So I think we should talk about Matt Hardy. It's the biggest highlight of Raw.
And I gotta say, last week you were like, "Oh, return of this crazy Matt Hardy," and I was like, "Yeah, broken Matt Hardy," and you said, "Or maybe woken," and I was like, No, he'll be broken. No, he's totally woken. You were right.
He's woken, and
Joe.
He's also going to be a contender for the WWE title eventually within 2018. I feel like
we'll see.
I mean, listen, his promo with Bray Wyatt was done brilliantly.
It was so
good.
It was so
great.
good.
I love seeing. You know what? Here's the one thing I've always liked about Matt Hardy, though, is that you take the reins off this guy, and like even when he was doing V1 version 1 Matt Hardy with Shannon Moore, you remember that?
And the Matt facts.
Tell me that wasn't the most like brilliant stuff that you had seen from him.
Listen, man, I had a version 1 T-shirt. Me and my buddy had version 1 T-shirts. Yeah,
and I loved it because it sucks though. I know that the fans love Jeff, but Matt works so hard to be so good, and he is. He can prove it in the ring, and he can prove it on the microphone. This guy can do it all, and I think that he deserves, if not the title run, at least a run for the title.
I mean, he's just bringing it out. It's getting a very good reaction, at least from the LA crowd. Let's keep it going, and the next couple of weeks will be very telling.
Now, here's another question. Any more you want to talk about Matt? You want to go dive deeper into broken Matt Hardy a little bit for people that might not know what that gimmick is actually?
Well. Okay, it was at Impact, and how did it come about? Didn't he lose a match to Jeff, and didn't he get put through a table or something, and he was way hurt, and then he came back and he was off kilter, and everybody was like, what the hell's wrong with Matt Hardy? And they started building these little vignettes, and he just got weirder and weirder, and finally it built to... Was it the week before? What was the week before when we finally came up with, Vanguard 1?
Vanguard 1.
I remember showing this to a buddy of mine, and who wasn't really a big wrestling fan, but I was like, just stick with this. Just watch this, 8 minutes? And we see Jeff Hardy gets an invitation to Matt Hardy's compound. Matt's playing the the piano very, very softly. And... what did happen? What exactly happened?
I don't remember,
but...
chaos ensued.
I
remember them having wrestling matches essentially in their backyard.
Jeff goes into his compound wrestling ring.
Oh, yeah, they go into the wrestling ring.
His nephew is on top of the rope, and he accidentally almost hits him. But he goes through the rope and he goes through the table.
It was crazy. I also remember when he did the brother Nero, and he put Jeff in the water and baptized him, and he would come out as different versions of Jeff till we got brother Nero. Like that stuff was so creative.
Yeah. The Vanguard one, I didn't explain what it was. It's a drone. There was a doorbell ringing, and there was a drone at the door, and the drone put forth a holograph of Matt Hardy's face laughing. And it was... I remember before it came out, other wrestlers had gotten previews of the final deletion, which was the week after, which was the big fight. And like Lance Storm tweeting out, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in wrestling and stuff like that, building the hype for it. And it was just ridiculous.
And now a lot of fans here in the chat are big Matt Hardy guys. We have Van Jarman says, Matt will reestablish Bray Wyatt. Do you think that's true? I do. I hope so.
I mean, it's the first time watching a Bray Wyatt... it's the first time watching a Bray Wyatt promo where he was the sane one.
Yeah. And then Craig Anderson's Matt facts were so entertaining. If he gets full reign of his gimmick, Bray Wyatt is in trouble. Primetime says, I hope to get Matt full creative control. Van Jarman says, get woke, stay woke.
Yes.
Primetime says, woken. So, I mean, it seems like we have a lot of Matt Hardy. Senor Benjamin was great.
Okay, yeah, so things to look forward to that were in Impact. If you didn't watch Impact...
this was the only reason to watch Impact, actually.
It really was for a while. So Matt's wife, Rebby Sky, and they have their son, Maxwell, King Maxwell. And they have another one now, too, I guess, right?
They may.
I think they got another kid.
They have brother Nero.
Brother Nero is Jeff Hardy.
Vanguard 1, which you talked about.
And
Senor Benjamin.
Senor Benjamin is Rebecca Sky's father. And he was, in the story, he was the landscaper. And
this is like we're selling, like if David Lynch would ever pitch a wrestling show, it's with Matt Hardy for sure. It's what it is. But I am really excited to see, I guess not broken, but woken Matt Hardy in the WWE. I love that they're putting him right in there with Bray. Do you remember, I think it was a little bit last year where Bray, a little bit before WrestleMania actually, right around, a little bit around this time where, or maybe after this time, where Bray wrestled Randy Orton. They did the House of Horrors match, whatever it was, and they went to the Wyatt family. You remember that?
Yes.
Imagine if they brought that back, but did it right with Matt Hardy.
Because all of us were like, "Oh, okay, so Bray Wyatt's ripping off the Hardys,"
which was done poorly. Interesting. Though.
It was.
They
done
did it
poorly.
like a horror movie. I think that if you let Matt Hardy really run with this thing, he has a lot of legs.
I think the most quoted thing, and hopefully somehow we'll see a return of this, is Matt Hardy's running on his compound. He's either running from Jeff or running towards Jeff. I think he's running away from Jeff. And he goes up to the lake, and he sees this boat tilted on its side. And he says, "A dilapidated boat!" And that became like something that everybody laughed at, and in a good way. It's in a good way somehow.
Now, we were just talking about the reaction that Matt Hardy got. I want to talk about real quick some of the hottest wrestling towns, one of the hottest crowds. I think LA is one of them. I wouldn't say they're New York or Toronto. Or Chicago. I mean, those are three big cities. But I think LA, New York, Madison Square Garden more specifically, maybe even the Barclays Center as well now. What else? You got big hotbeds of wrestling. Chicago's a huge one. Toronto. I love the crowd in Toronto. Whenever they announce they're in Toronto, I'm all for it. I just love the chants. Those guys are so creative there. What are some other big crowds? The NXT crowd in Orlando.
Let me just say about chants. I don't know how much I need them. I think I like a chant. Chants. I like a chant if it comes around organically. But I think, oh man, the too sweet. I'm done with that shit.
What about when they would count to 3 and they go 10, 10.
See, now you're laughing. I want to set something on fire. Being reminded of this, it's terrible.
Yeah, I hope you have another what grinds my gears for this.
I can't do the grind. I can't do the promo of the week. I got to be too loud. And it's too loud for the microphone. I watched back last week,
and it was great. That was how they do it.
But it was sparkling. It was cracking up the microphone.
Pull the microphone further away from me. I think LA has a great crowd here. Some of the better cities, I would say it's one of the better cities when I think Raw next week is in Chicago. They're in Cleveland. So Cleveland's not a bad city. It's also CM Punk's final building that he wrestled in was the Gung Arena, I believe.
Okay.
So they'll be in Chicago next week. Now, that was the biggest highlight to take away from Monday Night Raw. We also had I mean, what else you want to talk about with Raw? Is it?
Man, I don't remember too much about Raw. Not a whole lot.
Hey, yeah, they said fuck the fuck off. They love it. So they definitely want the.
If somebody listen, if we find some, I'm not just gonna throw this phrase out willy nilly. If you hear me tell somebody to fuck the fuck off, I want it to mean something.
Did you know that? So he's a stand-in for Andrew Lincoln in The Walking. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So anyway, we're gonna get back to this. So
we need to talk about Zeus before the end of this show.
we will talk about Zeus. We'll get to Zeus. I want to talk real quick about the Women's Revolution. Paige is back. We have her whole thing. I want to just get your opinion on this real quick.
I think they're doing all right. I think especially Paige's group is doing a lot better than the Ruby Riot's group because
I think her match with Sasha was a little too long. I don't think Paige's can keep up with Sasha. Sasha's too good for Paige.
All right, well, it's been a while.
Well, she shouldn't have been in that position. They're burying her. She should have had one segment, not through the commercial break. I felt that one went a little too long for my taste.
Maybe
personally.
fair enough.
I mean, realistically, with Paige's skill set, I think she was good for when she came in, but I think she is overrated at this point. I understand certain fans love her, but I don't think she warrants the respect as maybe as somebody like. I mean, listen, realistically, I would love to. That match would have been great with what's her name, the MMA fighter, Sonya Deville.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that Paige does a lot of little things that are good. I remember when they brought out Alicia Fox, and she was like, "Hey, we used to be great friends."
Yeah.
But I can't say that much about these two. And the way that she delivered that, it's like, you're going to get your ass kicked. I'm so sorry. It was really well done. I am appreciating her performances, and I think she's very welcome back.
I think she is, but I think she needs to. That match was too long for her.
All right. It was a long match. There's a lot of long matches.
The other thing I did not like about this week's Raw, I personally...
Oh, what grinds your gears, Joe?
I'm over Jason Jordan's whole thing.
I am not.
I don't like it.
I think Jason's great.
I think it's so boring. I think the whole Kurt Angle thing is
with
terrible.
the whiny kid that you want to get. I want to see him get the shit.
Well, you know
kicked
what?
out.
Maybe I would like it a little bit more had it not been with Roman Reigns. I'm tired of Roman Reigns also.
Okay.
I am tired of the Shield. They main evented this week on Raw. I'm not for it.
I think the Shield is very boring. It's the Shield are back together. Great.
Personally,
I'm telling you, if they changed Roman's music when the Shield broke up, and now that they have it back, that's one thing. But now it's just we're hearing Roman's theme the whole darn time.
A lot of other people aren't liking Jason Jordan either.
But that kind of reminds me. You talking about how you don't like Jason Jordan reminds me when Kurt Angle first came out.
No, it's not that. It's not the same kind of hatred.
Okay, but I mean, I remember. Okay, well, I'm still going to tell my story because my cousin emailed me. This is back when it was just email, and he was like, I know you like the wrestling, Kevin, and I've been watching it again, but man, that Kurt Angle. That guy really annoys me. And I was like, hey, Matt, he's a bad guy. You're supposed to hate him. He's like, that's right. And I do hate him. They're doing a good job.
No, listen, personally, I think the reason I don't think it's anything having to do with Jason Jordan's personality. I don't think it's the way he's booked. I think it's more so me being upset that they pulled him out of a great team with Chad Gable. And they didn't really let that flourish as much as it could have.
Right, but that was months ago. We need to get over that.
But this is the problem with WWE, though, because you could have had two stars eventually later on down the line, and you wasted one of them completely.
You're right.
Now, same thing with Jason Jordan. He was thrust into a spot where people just don't care about him. I think that might be my biggest gripe and my biggest complaint is I just don't care about him.
I think people are starting to really hate him. In the right way.
I don't. I think they're hating him because he's taking up TV time. People just don't care about him. This is the same thing. Like Randy Orton's another great example, right? Nobody cares. Like, I hate to break it to you, WWE. Nobody cares about Randy Orton anymore.
I don't care about Randy Orton.
No, I haven't cared about Randy Orton since circa 2014. Like, he's done. I'm done with Randy Orton. He's in a main event picture, and that's another shame to AJ Styles. He's the guy that should be closing every show.
Sure.
Not Randy Orton. Now, I do like the fact that Shinsuke, and I understand the Kevin Owens storyline might be a little bit bigger, and they feel like that storyline may not need the title, but it's not helping Jinder Mahal or AJ Styles.
Was AJ on the show tonight?
No. That's my point. Your best wrestler in your company and your
What was he
champion.
doing? He had to have been doing something. Are they at Tribute for the Troops or something?
No, they might. Yeah, they either might be a tribute for the troops, but also they have the tour in India this week, so he could be going out prepping for that. So
All right.
that could be another reason too. Okay, now I want to move on. Any big notable things from SmackDown before we get into like hardcore news?
Well, we'll talk about the end because, okay, so we found out that Clash of Champions is going to be Randy Orton and Shinsuke versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn,
Which is okay.
which is a match, fine.
I think we've seen it before though, right?
But Shane McMahon at the end to close out the show, we get a backstage segment with Shane and Daniel Bryan, and Shane's like, "Hey, just so you know, in this match, I'm going to be the special referee. And also, if Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn lose, they're fired. They can't even go to Raw. They're fired." So I think, and then he walked away, and Daniel Bryan gave him a good look. So there's definitely something going down with Daniel Bryan and Shane. This almost, even as a complete mark, if you're a 14-year-old kid and you're watching Raw and you're watching Shane be like this, it's kind of a dick move.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's doing the heel turn ever since Survivor Series.
So okay? You're definitely going with Shane O'Mac heel turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's interesting though because here's the thing: I think you go Shane O'Mac heel turn, but also he's putting heels in a particular spot, and I don't see Kevin Owens becoming a face anytime soon.
No.
So it's very interesting what they're doing there. Now this also could be a ploy. Who knows? Maybe it's a Daniel Bryan's kind of return. Maybe it's Daniel Bryan taking the show himself. So I don't know. But it's interesting.
And that, I saw a lot of talk about Daniel Bryan looking for medical clearance to wrestle in WWE again, which I very much want. Matt thinks Daniel Bryan's turning heel, and there's definitely potential for that. I think it would be a huge mistake. But they're talking about, the potential for Daniel Bryan wrestling again, and some people are saying they're going to build for Daniel Bryan and Shane at WrestleMania, and I am like, what a fucking waste of one of the greatest wrestlers in the world to have to fight Shane McMahon at WrestleMania.
This is exactly how I felt with Shane McMahon being in Survivor Series, though.
No, I agree.
I don't think. Me personally, I don't think he could lead a stable. What if he leads a stable of indie guys?
Van Jarman says maybe then we need a Stephanie face turn. I don't think that's the case.
Melina might be coming on this show sooner than later. But I think what if we get a heel stable, kind of like all these indie guys that are kind of together.
Weren't they talking about doing that forever ago? Trips was going to bring this bunch of guys.
Could happen now, led by Daniel Bryan. Nobody better than
man,
him.
I can only get so hard, Joe. What are you doing to me?
It could happen. I mean, listen, this could be their version of the Bullet Club, essentially, if you think about it. I mean, you could have some of the best workers in the world that are just kind of like disgruntled. Remember how they had a union? WWE had this group called Union.
Oh, God. And Vince was part of it as just, just to show how ridiculous it was.
But who knows? Maybe we get something like that. And then you already got guys like Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish.
Yeah.
So this could work out really to their favor. And also,
how big would you want that stable to be?
You know what? Honestly, what if it's not Kyle O'Reilly and those guys, but what if they do get fired and somebody that isn't over? What if it's somebody like Finn Balor that joins them? And they kind of reform this new style of Bullet Club.
I mean, anything that gets Finn Balor major TV time.
Well, hey, he wrestled this week against the great Bo Dallas. That was a five-star classic.
I mean, he won, and I remember. And Michael Cole was like, he was brave enough to face Kane, which is much better than last week's. Won't somebody
probably
help
heard
this
you. Michael
poor
Cole
man?
Probably heard you. So also, you know what? A big piece of interesting news, switching gears for a second. I mean, I hope that this stable does happen. I don't know where the storyline's going to go, but we're going to have to wait and see. But I do want to switch gears for a second. Next week is WWE Week on USA, and it's the premiere of NXT on Wednesdays.
Is that official?
It is official, going to be happening NXT on Wednesdays, but I'm not sure.
When was that announced?
This week on Raw. I'm not necessarily sure if this is going to be just a one-time deal, because it's also tribute for the troops. But they said it's the premiere of NXT. They didn't say just a one-time special. It said it's the premiere of NXT on USA. So going forward, I'm really curious to see what happens.
I want to watch it on my Apple TV on the network whenever I feel like. I don't want to watch. I don't want to tune into regular TV.
Well, I mean,
anymore.
it'd still be available on your Apple TV, though.
Will it?
Yeah, I'd
Because
assume
Raw
so.
isn't.
Raw isn't because they have a contract with NBC Universal.
Right.
And same thing with SmackDown. But I think NXT, maybe they're making a different deal. Maybe it is a one-time thing. Who knows? But I would love to see NXT. Because for me, I only watch NXT when it's convenient. And I don't have a lot of time to watch NXT. But
Exactly.
that's that. That is that. Now let's get into some wrestling news from around the world of pro wrestling. But before we do that, let's also talk about some of your comments. There's a stable in NXT already with former Ring of Honor people, which we were just talking about. Craig Anderson says, Shane McMahon is the best non-wrestler. Everyone didn't care about Shane and AJ, but it was one of the best matches on the card.
Was it?
Was it?
Was it?
Well, because it definitely wasn't Roman Reigns and The Undertaker. Let's be real.
On the WrestleMania card?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. It definitely, according to Vince McMahon, it wasn't Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens either.
That's right.
So
You have to think about it. It wasn't great.
it was. I mean, it was. I think personally, WrestleMania was lackluster, especially last year, because you don't have those standout moments. I would say that probably Shane and AJ would probably be best match on the on the card, but I don't think it was a good WrestleMania by any means.
Yeah, I mean, we should be pulling out all the stops in there. If you want to, I would be fine with Shane McMahon versus Daniel Bryan at In Your House.
In your house.
That's where I would be all right with it.
Cheese in your
house.
house. I hated those. I take it back. Some of the In Your House pay-per-views were really good. The Canadian Stampede is my favorite.
That was amazing.
Also a huge fan of the Canadians. I was just watching this Canadian Stampede. The pop that Bret Hart and his crew get in the Canadian Stampede.
Yeah, bringing them out one at a time. The
was
crowd going absolutely
amazing.
nuts.
You could see the camera literally shaking. It
was very
when
exciting.
they came out. It was pretty awesome. Do you ever do that where you watch old pops just to see like they make you like CM Punk in Chicago for Money in the Bank, another huge pop.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan in Toronto when he wrestled The Rock, huge.
It's kind of like watching old Raws and Nitros again and seeing all of the signs in the crowd.
Yeah.
In like 97, 98. It's holy shit, dude.
Like Bite Me Vince.
Sure.
I remember that was our Bischoff rules or something. I remember seeing that a lot on WCW. All right, let's talk about some news. Rob Van Dam recently revealed that he can no longer work for the WWE. And it's not the WWE's fault, and it's not Rob Van Dam's fault. He got injured.
Yep.
He suffered a pretty bad concussion, left his vision blurry, tried to pass the impact test, couldn't pass the impact test that WWE implemented, and I believe he was wrestling Pentagon Jr. From Lucha Underground. Now, this all came out as he's going through a messy divorce with his wife, who I actually met. It was a lovely lady at the time. But this is all happening, and his merchandising deal runs out, I believe, early next year as well. What are your thoughts about this in general? And really, realistically, hopefully WWE can pay for some of this concussion stuff and make up for it a little bit because, regardless, they have to understand that they're a huge part of a lot of these people having brain injuries. But what do you think? Would you even want to see a Rob Van Dam run, taking it straight up objectively?
I mean, let's say if he was completely healthy. I'm trying to remember his last matches. I think they were all right.
It was like Alberto Del Rio. It was.
Who doesn't love Rob Van Dam?
Man, all right, so
he's like one of the coolest guys.
But here's the thing:
he innovated a lot of this. The split-legged moonsault. I mean,
but like when you got ECW Rob, and not even like late WWE Rob, but just when you got Rob Van Dam's return more recently, like when you got Rob Van Dam in TNA. Was not the same guy as that you would see in ECW.
But you can't do those ECW matches for years.
Sure, you
and then
can't.
Be the same
but you can
person.
still be good. I mean, look at Shawn Michaels. He didn't necessarily have to change it. Look at somebody like Kurt Angle. You don't necessarily have, or AJ Styles even. I mean, AJ's a different scenario because he's still the same guy. But like Triple H is a great wrestler, right? He changed his style up. Rob Van Dam, I love Rob Van Dam as a performer, as a person. Rob Van Dam's very cool. It's just, I don't necessarily think he had the ability to change up his style, or I don't think he had the ability. I think he got lazy towards the end and kept having the same matches. Is what it came down to for me.
I don't know if lazy is the right word. I think there's a good chance.
I don't know. Did you see the effort he was putting in towards the end there?
But I think maybe uninspired.
That's lazy.
I think his last run was, okay, go in and lose to a bunch of guys and put them over.
Sure, I agree. You know what it reminded me of?
If that's my job.
It reminded me of Mr. Perfect circa when he came back after the Royal Rumble.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's sad because somebody of Rob Van Dam's caliber, let's be real, honest to God, you knew who the better person was in that Rob Van Dam Jerry Lynn Classics. Every wrestler says it. You can tell after wrestling the two of them which one is the reason why those matches were 5-star matches. Jerry Lynn was the fucking guy carrying that.
Are you tearing down ECW RVD as well?
No, I'm not.
Is that what's going on here?
I'm not, but I'm saying that Rob Van Dam was great in ECW because I don't think he cared, and I think he had a chip on his shoulder. I think he got complacent as he got older. And I think he didn't want to do as much, which is fine. I mean, he can change up his style, but he wasn't able to change it. He wasn't able to make that transition into working a smarter style of wrestling. I personally, that's the way I feel about it.
I mean, I'll go ahead and I'll agree with you that his last matches and his last run weren't super great and certainly nowhere near to what they used to be. But I kind of don't blame him too.
No, I agree with that. I mean, listen, can you name Rob Van Dam's best last match?
Oh, gosh.
Because I can name it. I think I can
Tell
name
you what,
one.
I can't, but I can remember the ladder match that he and Jericho had on Raw. And I remember that me and my friends were like, man, this was not a good match. And that was the consensus online. And then Jericho got online, and he was like, screw you guys. I think that was my favorite match this year. And I don't think he believed that, but he was just like, screw you guys.
Me personally, I think his last best match was against Chris Benoit at SummerSlam when he won the Intercontinental title from him. But regardless of what happened with Chris Benoit was great. So, I feel that it depends on who he's in there with, whether or not he's really going to have a good match, I feel like.
So where is he now? It's like, man, he's concussed. I don't know how long it takes for those to at least get reasonably better to step in a ring. But even though he's not going to go to WWE, he's probably still going to do some independent shows. And I kind of want the best for RVD.
Yeah, I think I do want the best for Rob as well. I wish him a speedy recovery, but we'll see what happens with that. Now, our next bit of news is: did you hear that they're taking 205 Live on the road?
I'm surprised. I was surprised to hear that. I wish the best for everybody involved with that, but I mean, I don't know why they're not just put in with the Raw house show circuit. Like, is there enough interest? What kind of arenas are they going to fill?
They have to smell. They're doing 3 shows. One's in Kingston, Rhode Island. The other one in Lowell, Massachusetts, and Poughkeepsie, New York. So,
because even the NXT shows, obviously we see the big takeovers in the same arenas or close to the same arenas that the big pay-per-views are happening. But the house shows, even the NXT house shows, are like pretty small.
Yeah, and because they're doing things like, I remember they were in LA. I think it was like some theater that they ran at, which is great. I mean, I think it's smart to run smaller venues like this.
So, but I mean, I don't see 205 Live filling those.
Well, I think the real question here is, if you look at where they're starting in the markets that they're starting in are huge wrestling hotbeds, and I think that's smart. If you're trying to capture the Ring of Honor audience, then you got something. But I don't necessarily think putting 205 Live on a live house shows is the best idea, because those guys aren't even over enough on Raw yet.
Right. Like, who am I going to pay a ticket for?
Enzo Amore. No?
Gentleman Jack. I'm all in for Gentleman Jack. I love Gentleman Jack.
What about Kenta, or what's his WWE name?
Hideo
Itami.
Sure. I mean, I love Hideo. I love Rich Swann. I Brian Kendrick. Yeah, I like Brian Kendrick. But Gentleman Jack Gallagher is where it's at.
Now, me personally, I like the idea of 205 Live just being a tournament every year. To get the best cruiserweights in the world, and not a title, or they can win a title that they have to give up every year, or like a cup or something.
Or they get to challenge the champion at the next big takeover.
Yeah, like I like 205 Live. I like the tournaments that WWE was doing because it makes it feel grandiose. Like, I really like the Dusty Rhodes Classic. I like the women's tournament, the Mae Young Classic. I think those are brilliant ways, to kind of get into that. And if you get some of these great cruiser, and there's a lot of guys that they don't have right now. I mean, Zach Sombre. Sombre, to say his last name right? Zack Sabre from New Japan. He's great.
I don't know that guy.
You don't know him? He's great. So, I think that there's a lot of guys that they should be eyeing, and there's also guys in.
Zach Osprey?
So what was I say?
No,
Yeah, Zach Osprey, or that's Will Osprey. Zach Sabre and Will Osprey are two different guys, though.
No more Y's at the end of your name, guys. It's gonna screw me up.
Both of those guys, though, I think that maybe they're looking to capitalize on that. Maybe if they get a few bigger names like that, maybe what's his name? Ricochet. He can help with that. He has some international, and I think another smart thing too is that personally, I think that if 205 Live is going to be doing house shows and running venues, they should either be doing it in the UK or they should be doing it in Japan, or even Mexico. I think that the WWE should really start looking at doing that. I mean, like you said, I'm not necessarily sure who you can pay to see, really, right? Right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought that was rhetorical.
No.
I thought we were moving on. I'm sorry for the dead air.
No, you're good. So we're gonna move on to our next bit of news. Let's talk about this one's gonna tie into our comic book fans. So anybody that watches our DC Watchtower show, which airs on Thursdays, Daniel, Sarah, and Ernie are on that show. But right now we're gonna be talking about the Arrow himself, Stephen Amell. He wants to bring all of the Bullet Club on the Arrow TV show.
I think he wants to bring the elite.
Does he?
That's my guess. I mean, how many people are in the Bullet Club?
He wants to bring Tama Tonga.
Does he?
I don't know. You said all of them, right? He wants to bring Cody Rhodes. Isn't Cody Rhodes a member of the Bullet Club?
Well, yes, he definitely wants. Yeah.
And that's like his good buddy. And he wants to bring, obviously, Kenny Omega and then the Young Bucks and all these other Bullet Club guys. The Tonga Kid and the Underboss himself.
But so funny because I mentioned I got that other. We haven't done a podcast in forever at allrightpodcast.com. But so my buddy Ralph, I show him wrestling from time to time, and he really liked Cody Rhodes, and then he really liked Stardust a lot,
and he really likes Arrow,
and he loves Arrow. So and all this stuff started coming together, and he's like high heaven. He's having a great time with it. So yeah, I mean, Ralph is going to be particularly happy.
Well, I'm happy though that one thing I do like about Stephen Amell.
Primetime brings up Stephen Amell went through a table at that ROH show. The same show I meant to bring up the fact that Christopher Daniels got put through a flaming table, courtesy of Cody Rhodes. He was on fire.
I like the fact that Stephen Amell didn't sell his friends out, though. He could have been doing WWE stuff, but he's like, no, Cody's my boy.
It's pretty cool.
I think it's pretty cool of Stephen Amell just to kind of be like, you know what? Because let's be real, Vince McMahon would offer that guy a lot of money to do whatever. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of celebrities would take that. Not Stephen Amell. He's like, fuck it, I'm sticking with my boys.
And it's even more so when you know how much of a real old school wrestling fan he is.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So props to you, Stephen Amell. Makes me kind of want to watch your show again. Just get better. The show needs to get better. It's not great. Now we're going to move on to, you want to talk about Triple H on how he thinks fans view Roman Reigns?
I don't.
Okay, we're going to talk about it anyway. So, how good is Roman Reigns? Here's what Triple H had to say.
He's the best.
I think he's one of the best that the WWE have right now. Roman is a unique position because the fan base tends to believe that he is the chosen one that the WWE wants in his position. So they choose not to accept that position. But the truth is, and some people will listen to this and want to argue against it, but honestly, most people who argue against it are just qualified to make the argument. Roman is one of the most skilled performers, bar none, the WWE has right now. That's on every level. It's funny that Roman goes to the ring every night, and there's a decision being made whether they want to boo him or cheer him, depending on where you are, depending on what is done. But usually in the end of the night, because he works so hard and he's so good at what he does, that he wins them over. That has been the trend recently. You saw it with John Cena as you see it with others. He's a very skilled guy in the ring, no matter how you break it down. I would consider him to be one of the very best in WWE today. Thoughts?
Well, it's a sad state of affairs in the WWE today, if that's true. Listen, I forget. You're lukewarm on Roman.
No. I'm on the mindset of I disagree with what Triple H says. I think that yes, he is the WWE corporate sponsored guy, but the guy does work hard and he doesn't have bad matches. I can't discredit him there. It's the same thing when people were always saying that, when Triple H was on top, he was doing this, and this. Yes, and he used his power to stay on top. However, anybody that's going to tell me Triple H had bad matches is straight up just lying.
Yeah.
I mean, the one bad match he did have was with Scott Steiner. I will say it was terrible.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, there's a lot behind that. But I personally feel that regardless of how you feel about Triple H, especially during that time, he was putting out great matches. Not to say that anybody else couldn't, because Shawn Michaels obviously could have it, and there was a lot of other guys. But considerably, Triple H was the man. Now, when it comes to Roman Reigns, I do feel that there is a disconnect with fans. I don't agree with Triple H when he says that fans have the opportunity to boo or cheer him, and at the end of the night, they're cheering him. I've watched a lot of pay-per-views. I watched a lot of shows where at the end of the night, when Roman gets the 3 count, there are a ton of boos. So I think that's very delusional. I think this is me on my high horse now. The one thing that I always would hate about John... Now, I respect the shit out of John Cena. I really do. But the one thing I hate about John Cena is that he would come out and say that the WWE, or even Triple H would say this when he was doing his thing at CM Punk, that the fans choose who the guy is. The fans get to choose that. That's not true.
I've seen this in a Vince McMahon interview too. I remember.
I will say that the fans do have some say, because I think, I'll be honest with you, had fans been lukewarm to AJ Styles, he would not be holding the WWE Championship right now.
Right.
But so the fans choose in a sense. However, some wrestlers are shoved down your throats a little too much.
Absolutely, and I mean that's what I've been hammering about to anybody who will listen. Yes, you're not letting us choose.
You're not.
You're telling us who we like.
It's true. I mean,
I think they pulled the old trick during some of the before they accepted the fact that people were going to hate Roman. I think I remember when they would do replays and they would cut the crowd boos.
Oh yeah, is this the old Goldberg trick that they would, where you'd put the enhanced crowd Goldberg chants in there?
But in this case, when people were booing Roman, I feel that they lowered it. I think that but I would hate to be wrong about that. But do you remember when they did that with Hogan at that Royal Rumble that Flair won, right?
Yeah.
The crowd was booing the shit out of Hogan, and then when you watched it on Superstars the next week, the fans were chanting Hogan somehow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's one of my favorite Royal Rumbles, by the way.
Oh, it was amazing.
It's the most, I would go as far to say the most star-studded Royal Rumble in WWE history.
Wonderful moments.
Yeah. All right, so I want to talk about, let's see, let's do one last story, and then we'll start getting into some personal things.
I'll go into the comments here, and I know there's a lot of talk. Someone wants to know who my WWE crush is, and I got to tell you, I'm 43 years old. I can't be lusting after these girls in their 20s. It's no good for anybody. So I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
Well, I got an answer for you. It's my WWE. Can I borrow your charger, by the way?
Nope.
Thanks. My WWE crush would probably be... Are we talking current divas on the roster, or are we just talking...
I think they want as much talking about girls as possible.
Okay,
so why don't you give both?
Man, that's tough to say. So my current WWE crush would probably be Mandy Rose. She's very attractive. Mandy Rose, or maybe Alexa Bliss, or even Sasha Banks. There's great eye candy in there. But my Trish Stratus is probably my all-time favorite WWE diva. I would have to go as far to say.
I think you got a type.
Yeah, I like Melina as well, but knowing her in real life now, it kind of ruins that.
Right.
So there's that. I do want to talk about your Zeus story, but before that, we have to pick a match of the week. We did pick a match for Starrcade last week. Do you have a match of the week this week?
I do have a match of the week this week.
Do you have to look on your phone to figure out what it is?
I want to get the date right,
okay,
pal.
Okay.
Making fun of me for wanting to get details right. This is on the WWE Network. It's Monday Night Raw, December 22nd, 1997. It's the main event. It's the first heavily hyped Shawn Michaels versus Triple H match. And Chyna is kind of in the middle of these guys, and throughout the whole show, she's talking to Triple H sometimes. She's talking to Shawn Michaels sometimes. And finally,
wait, this is the one
we get the dream match.
This is the European title match.
For the European title, yes.
I remember this.
So that's where it is. Yeah, December 22nd, and it's like an hour and 22 minutes or something like that on the network.
All right, so my pick of the week is going to tie into the next coming up pay-per-view, Clash of Champions. Now, it's a SmackDown pay-per-view, But I'm going back and talking about Night of Champions. And 2011, if you want to talk about a guy that was on a high, was CM Punk. And he wrestled in a no DQ match against Triple H. This, if you want to go know what the definition of bury means, watch this match. There's no reason why CM Punk shouldn't have won that match. And go back and watch it. It's still a pretty good match, though. There's a few run-ins, a few shenanigans, but it's a good match, a decent enough match to watch. Triple H against CM Punk. It doesn't happen I think it only happened maybe once or twice in the WWE in general. It actually happened twice in WWE. So it happened on a SmackDown when he was still part of the Straight Edge Society. It happened when Punk was on his rise to being, one of the most popular wrestlers.
Wait, was this this is pre-Pipe Bomb?
This is pre-Pipe Bomb. It's like right before the Pipe Bomb, I believe.
Okay.
Actually, this might have been after the Pipe Bomb, actually.
I feel it was after.
It was after the Pipe Bomb. But go ahead and watch that match. It's a good one. Now, we got to get into your Zeus story. What's your Zeus story?
Okay, so I am a struggling actor here in the Los Angeles area. And I was privileged enough to be a part of the production. I was an extra in cinematic masterpiece Human Centipede 3. I was a guard in the prison. And oh man. It was up in Lancaster. Anyway, so we're at this prison courtyard. There's 100 extras that are prisoners, and there's like 8 or 9 of us that are guards. And some of the guys got pulled in, and they came back, and one of them told me this, that they went in. There's a scene in the movie where Zeus is in the movie as well.
Zeus, the God of Thunder?
The human wrecking machine.
Oh, that's Thor, the God of Thunder, right?
That's Thor, yes. And they're like, and the director is Tom Six, and he's like, hello, like this. He's very, I don't know, he's foreign. I don't know which one. And like Swedish or some shit. And so Zeus is getting ready to get taken down by these guys, by these security guards, because they're going to do some terrible surgery to him that you might know about. And so they're getting ready, and he's like, hold on a minute. Is this all you got to take me down? And he's like, yes, Tiny. Yes, we have the 2 security guards. And he legitimately said, I body slammed Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam '89. You need like 4 or 5 more guys to take me down. So they called in more extras to take him down. So it was more believable.
I have a Macho Man story. So when I was 18 years old, there was they needed extras for the first Spider-Man movie, and it was at the I think it was called the Grand Olympic Auditorium, I believe, in downtown LA. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. I came to set. It was the scene with Tobey Maguire and Randy Savage.
Bonesaw's ready.
Bonesaw. So I went, and mind you, this is a huge deal. It's the first ever Spider-Man movie, right? We didn't get to see a costume, but we did walk around the sets, and there was a few things at the Sony lot that were there. Oh, it was the Sony lot actually. So we did that, and we walked around set, but then I was in the audience when the stuff was happening. We got to see the whole takes. And in between takes, they would give us these posters, right? And I had a Bonesaw poster, but I had Randy Savage and Sam Raimi sign it. I still have it to this day. Then we went to lunch, and there was they were out of Coke, so I was going to buy a Coke. And Randy Savage bought me a Coke. And then he says, here you go, brother. Had the same voice, and I was like, man, that's like a real thing. And I was like, thank you so much. And he was like, no problem. And he just walked away. I was like, dude, that was so great. But that was my experience with the Macho Man Randy Savage on the set of Spider-Man. 2 of my favorite worlds colliding, wrestling and geek comic.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Randy Savage, rest in peace, man. He was a very, very nice dude. Generous dude. Oh, his wife at the time was Gorgeous George. She was there with him. Because this is right in that 2000.
Were they married?
Yeah, this was, I don't know if they were married, but this is that era of Randy Savage, like the 2000,
It came
Team
out in
Madness
2001,
era.
so yeah.
Team Madness era. So, yeah, man, he was such a nice guy. Randy Savage, man.
That's pretty
So
great.
Cool. Now, we talked about, man, we only have a couple minutes left. What is there any final thoughts you have on what you want to see next week on Raw or SmackDown?
Man, I think Jason Jordan beginning to end of Raw. That's what does it for me.
Jesus Christ. If you really want me to tune out to Raw, have Paige start it off. I would say if you really
what?
Yeah.
Even just a little 3-minute promo?
No, don't do that.
Paige is a great promo.
Paige is not a great promo. Enzo Amore is a great promo.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Now, let's see. Next week.
What's funny about Enzo is he got over as a bad guy because he's such a dick in real life.
Yeah, I love that though. That's so cool.
I don't know if I can get behind that.
I will say this. Here's what I want to see next week on Raw. I'm going to signal out Raw specifically. I want to see Finn Balor in a main event match against somebody.
That could happen.
It probably won't, though.
It probably won't.
He'll probably wrestle Curtis Axel next week. Realistically, probably wrestle Curtis Axel.
Hey, you know what? If he wins, it's the rebuilding of Finn. That's what I'm calling it, the rebuilding of Finn. The rebuilding of Balor.
What do you want to see next week?
Man, I don't know. So we had that cluster mess with the end of the tag title match.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that we'll see some of that. What do I want to see? That's the problem.
I want to see more Awoken Matt Hardy.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're going to see that.
Give me some more Awoken Matt Hardy, and you got me, Raw. But I think that's going to do it for us.
I think that's the thing that's going to be most exciting again about Raw is Matt Hardy again.
Best part of Raw.
Yeah.
Best part of Raw. All right, so Kevin, where can everyone find you on social media?
AllRightPodcast.com and Kevin Kittredge on Twitter.
Awesome. And you can find me at that hashtag Joe right here on that hashtag show. You can also find me over at Screen Rant. Go over there now because I just interviewed the whole cast of Star Wars The Last Jedi. So check that out. And as always, you can catch us here next week as we're going to be calling it In the Ring again. And hopefully we have some big wrestling news because we got a pay-per-view coming up pretty soon. We're going to be getting into the holidays. We have a big WWE week. We have Tribute for the Troops, NXT special, Raw and Smackdown, obviously. So WWE week is next week. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with everything trending in geek pop culture.
Yeah.
Fuck the fuck, man. Why are we getting...